The big gap in the recording is actually because I was focusing more on playing live.
Because of internet and everyone, well, being able now to produce their own albums to a certain extent,
Yeah.
that made you become more of a recording and a live artist.
That's a big part of it. I mean, there's always been a need for me to also be doing it myself, kind of whatever it is. I mean, to only work on other people's stuff is, you know, it's when there's such a disbalance, when you realize that your whole life you're just dead. I mean, and the amount of hours I was putting in, I mean, we're not talking a few hours a week. We're talking, you know, I mean, those kinds of hours, I had to do something for myself just to keep the sanity. So in a way, what it took for me to feel, I mean, I know this is narcissism, really, but for me to feel, you know, okay, because there's got to be a two-way street there, you know?
I know what you mean.
What it means now is more of the live, thing. It's, yeah.
No, but it's funny because, well, you've released an album 1988, 1993, then you produced, did some collaborations with your own work, and then, well, last album was released in 1999, but then it took you 10 years to release, almost 10 years to release new stuff, and now you've been doing, well, Sirens of the Apocalypse, and then now an EP last year, Son of a Gun, so now you're really more into, well, creating your own stuff. It looks like.
Well, there was a switch there in terms of, well, for one thing, the big gap in the recording is actually because I was focusing more on playing live. Like right in that transition between '99 and 2001 is, it's funny because I had a band like earlier in the mid '90s, and that sort of dissolved a little bit, but right around 2001 is when I was really focused. In fact, it's funny, right around the time I met the Dresden Dolls is kind of, I remember I was just starting to get, actually the band as it is now, just starting, that's how long it took. I work very slowly, just generally. So even though I was focusing on live and my own material, the idea of actually releasing records, you know, I can only do so much. So the focus actually somehow was more on rehearsing and getting the material ready to play live. And actually that took a big mental switch for me, because it's not so simple, because it can never be just music. You kind of have to develop a concept and an approach, you know? So what are my songs gonna sound like if I do, you know, this approach? I mean, it takes a while. I think generally, that sort of development with any artist takes a while. The reason we're not aware of it is because that happens in the period leading up to when we first hear about them. Yeah. So the artist, an artist that we've never heard of is screwing around with their concept for 10 years. We finally hear about them. They have their first record, or their first record that everyone hears about, and then after that it goes fast. You know, actually the pressure's on, there's a real motivation to get the records out, and that's also why you have the phenomenon of the second record not being as strong as the first record. Of course, because the first record was, you know, 10 years of the best material. You know, so that's why there's that gap of 10. I mean, I'm not happy that there's a gap of 10 years, but that's the reason.
No, it doesn't matter. Yeah.